Ndërkohë do kaloja fjalën zonjës Evisi Kopliku, e cila do na sjelli një pikpamje ndryshe pra çfarë po ndodh në një ambient rajonal mbi nismat e ekonomisë qarkulluese. Cila është vëmendja dhe cilat mund të jenë fondet fundja, sepse këto janë dhe disa pyetje që janë bërë drejt Italisë, si mund mbështeten pikërisht ekonomitë si e jona, që është në tranzicion vetvete, po si bëhet një tranzicion tjetër drejt ekonomisë qarkulluese. Faleminderit Evisi. Fjala është e jotja.
Faleminderit profesor, ju falenderoj për ftesën edhe falenderoj gjithë grupin tuaj të punës në radhë të parë për këtë event sa të rëndësishëm, aq dhe interesant me një diversitet panelistësh dhe besoj ka qenë një aktivitet shumë interesant për gjithë ne sot. Unë do ju kërkoj ndjes që prezantimin tim unë do ta kaloj në anglisht, duke qenë se RCC-ja ka gjuhën angleze si gjuhë pune dhe është më e thjeshtë për mua për terminologjinë. So as Professor Gens said, after hearing all these cases for Albania, I'll be giving here a glimpse of the role that RCC plays in terms of developing a circular economy at regional level, and see how Albania is also developing circular economy while being integrated in a wider market, which is that of Western Balkans 6. This is our motto. So before, in order for good and better region, I'll go through the three main strategic documents as a brief introduction. The three main strategic documents through which RCC is now developing circular economy in the region is the Common Regional Market Action Plan, which was adopted for the period 21-24, and which foresees actions that motivate the greening of the private sector. Then we, as you are all aware, we have the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, which was also adopted in the same time as the CRM Action Plan, and that is where the leaders of the region made concrete environmental policy commitments. And finally, the SCE 2030 strategy, which brings also the twin dimensions that were mentioned before by panelists, the green and digital transition throughout the actions foreseen. But before going in more details into these three documents, I wanted to give a glimpse also of what the Balkan Barometer has said, the recent one in 2021, has said about circular economy in the region, in each of the 6 economies, and for Western Balkans as a whole. Ms. Leka mentioned some interesting data from their research, and I believe these questions that we pose to the business sector further complement what was asked at national level in Albania. So this is an annual survey that RCC conducts with both businesses and public, and when we ask the businesses whether their current business model allows for a shift towards a circular economy model, if you look at the Western Balkan average, we see that 22% of them say that no, it's not possible. 32% say it's not sure, they are not sure, and there's another 18% that say that they are not even considering this at all. And even if we look at individual economies, more or less the data are similar. And then we ask the question whether, the next slide, please. Whether, which are the main barriers then that are impeding them from shifting towards circular economy in their line of business? And again, we see that the main problems seem to be 46% saying that there's additional cost, then there's lack of skills and expertise, 16%, lack of regulatory framework, 15%, which I believe adds to what Ms. Leka also found out through their surveys and research. So having this in mind, let's go to the next slide, please. Having this in mind, I want to go through what each of the strategic documents that RCC is now implementing foresees, and these are questions that have been posed even in previous editions of Balkan Barometer and through regional and extensive consultations during the adoption of this strategic document. All these feedback from economists, from the 6 economists, have been taken into consideration. The CRM action plan was adopted in Sofia summit in November 2020. It comes as a demonstration of regional efforts to work together towards EU integration while deepening regional and economic integration with each other as a region, but also based on the EU single market in EU 4 freedoms. Also, the Common Regional Market Action Plan was designed and adopted during a COVID-19 year. So this was taken into consideration, and we can say that it comes as part of the EU recovery efforts in the post-pandemic environment, and it was further complemented with the Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans. So as we all know, the European Commission adopted this Economic and Investment Plan in order to support, among others, the twin transition, green and digital transitions, and they did this by setting out a substantial investment package of up to 9 billion euros funding for the Western Balkan region. Further importance of digital and green transition was foreseen in the launch of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans in the same summit. And what's new with this action plan is that there's a strengthened regional dynamics and cooperation. So there's a strong cooperation in terms of implementation between regional organizations like RCC, CEFTA, TCT, Chamber Investment Forum, but also other international partner organizations. The Common Regional Market Action Plan is based on 4 key areas in line with the EU 4 freedoms, and we're going to stop in the regional, industrial and innovation area, where you'll see that as part, first we have put together industrial and innovation. So we want the region to lead an industrial innovative development. And then what was new here is that the region itself, the Western Balkans, identified and agreed on 6 key value chains on which they would like to work together and develop the regional market together. So among these 6 sectors, you'll see that one of them is developing the green and circular economy value chains. So in addition to sectorial development and actions foreseen, there are also cross-cutting actions as part of this area, which aim to enhance partnerships between different stakeholders, so cooperation between public, private sectors, and academia, CSOs, etc. There's a lot of focus on skills development, and we have recently published a gap analysis of digital skills, but where economists also selected main areas where they see the need to act in terms of digital skills, so such as circular economy, creative industries, etc. Of course, particular support is foreseen for startups and SMEs, especially in terms of green startups, women entrepreneurs, youth, young entrepreneurs, so main marginalized groups. And acting together as a region to promote investments, to promote the region, especially considering the nearshoring opportunities that COVID-19 brought, and to benefit from these opportunities. And of course, greening all these value chains where possible. So as you see, we also have sustainable tourism, and there's a lot of these key sectors that can actually have the green element. Going further at the micro level into the green and circular economy value chains, I've selected, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is one of some of the main actions that we have started implementing during this year and will continue in the coming months, is to establish a regional supplier development program. As part of this program, we started mapping the automotive, light manufacturing and agro-food sectors, and we, from preliminary findings, we can say that there's up to 1,100 suppliers in these sectors from the Western Balkans, but I must highlight that this mapping is ongoing, and the aim is that once we've had a clear mapping on who's doing what in these sectors, what are their products, their services, we'll see how to better match them with the European investors, how to match them with each other in the region, what technical assistance they will need in terms of upskilling and reskilling, etc. And once this mapping is complete, we'll do a mapping of circular economy in all these three sectors from a cross-cutting point of view. The other action is, creating a regional circular economy roadmap, which, as you all know, this has been achieved. It was adopted recently in the Burdo Summit taking place in October. And I must highlight here that RCC foresees a wide public awareness campaign starting in 22 regarding the green agenda for the Western Balkans and the relevant roadmaps. Establishing a circular economy stakeholders platform is one of our next actions to start, and this is why events such as this one are very important, because what we want to do here is map existing initiatives and bring them together through an institutionalized platform where we can discuss and tackle challenges together. It's not about raising a new platform from the very beginning. Finally, particular focus on the private sector, through which we want to establish a regional green startup network, and enhancing partnerships, as I mentioned before, with different stakeholders. We started cooperating very strongly, for example, with the European Innovation Technology Institute's KICS, especially with Climate KIC, who is already doing a mapping in the region on circular economy, and other KICs like manufacturing and raw materials. The green agenda for the Western Balkans, it was mentioned a lot, so I'm not going to go in details into that, but for us, a public awareness campaign is what's next, and very important to keep raising awareness on this. We heard from some speakers that there's still lack of awareness when it comes to circular economy. Together with the action plan, which was adopted recently for a period of 21 to 2030, and which has 5 main areas, one of them being the circular economy, but of course the others also equally important. Next, please. And finally, the SEE 2030 strategy. Now, in addition to the 2 documents that I presented, we have embedded the socio-economic impact of the green transition as a guiding principle in the priority actions foreseen in the SEE 2030 strategy. This was adopted in June of this year. Unlike the previous documents, strategic documents, this has a wider scope because this strategy is implemented in 13 Southeastern European economies, and it has 3 main pillars: prosperity, people, peace, and partnerships. But what's new, unlike compared to the SEE 2020 strategy, is that this will go through a bottom-up approach, will be a lively document, revised every 2 years based on inputs and discussions we'll have with the 13 economies, but above all, also with the stakeholders. We are going to focus a lot of our efforts in raising multi-stakeholder dialogue mechanisms. And of course, why am I mentioning this strategy? Because again, green and digital accelerating green and digital transition is foreseen in most of the actions. And as part of the multi-stakeholder dialogue mechanisms, we will extend cooperation with do I have a next slide, please? We will extend cooperations with CSOs, academia, private sector, especially the financial sector, and region to region. We have already started a very good cooperation with think tanks and CSO representatives in the region, and we want to revitalize the dialogue now that the strategy has been implemented. We mentioned the private sector, but especially the financial sector, because development of circular economy cannot be done only by public institutions with whom RCC works mostly. It has to be a very close cooperation between private sector and public sector. So we want to extend our cooperation to the financial sector as well. We're starting communication with banking associations in the region, and finally region to region, which will enable us to exchange experience between the economies during development implementation of the strategy, but especially at city level or town level in terms of different practices that they are implementing. This would be all. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.